Um, Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by Paul Maskill. Good afternoon, Paul, or good morning, I should say.
Thanks, Pete. How are you doing today?
I'm doing mighty well, thank you. So tell us, Paul, who are you, where are you calling from, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. So for people that don't live in the States, on the East Coast, kind of halfway between New York and Florida. I've been down here about 10 years. Originally grew up in Michigan, which is pretty north in the States, pretty cold usually. 8 months of winter, and that wasn't my thing. So I left Michigan, moved to Chicago originally. I was doing what everybody told me to do. So go to school, get good grades, go to university, and then go climb the corporate ladder. So everyone told me to do that. So that's what I did. I moved to Chicago, which is also very cold, windy, and snowy for a long part of the year. And sat in a cubicle and did finance work, and it was just not that much fun. So I know we got a lot of time on the show. We can definitely dive into that, but long story short, left the finance world after 3 years. This was all during the financial crisis. Watched way too many people lose their job, a job that they didn't love, but a job that they had to have because it was supporting so much of their life that they were living. So I knew that wasn't for me. I quit that job. I actually backpacked around South America for a couple months with mostly people from Europe because Americans don't usually take more than like a 1 week vacation. And it seems like everybody in Europe takes like year-long vacations. So backpacked around South America for about 2 months. And that's when I realized there's way too many opportunities in this world, and life's way too short to do something that you hate doing every day. The people that I ran into every day, the locals, they had no physical assets. They had no stuff that we accumulate. And they were way happier than anybody that I ever ran into in the subway or at work in Chicago. So that was really kind of the tipping point where I knew I was not going to go back to work for somebody else, for the next 30 or 40 years of my life. So moved to Raleigh, totally new place. And that was about 10 years ago where I started my first business and been an entrepreneur ever since.
That's awesome. I mean, even just like from the very start there, you're spotting the difference between what you want and what you need. And people are working because they need to earn money or they need to fulfill something, whether they do or they don't, or, they've got on this hamster wheel, whereas what do you actually want? And you took time out to discover that.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the stuff that we're chasing, or we think we should be chasing, are just things, right? We need a better car, we need a better house, we need the membership at the country club. We need all these things, and then we get them, and we're not fulfilled because we don't love what we're doing every day. So, I made that realization quicker than most, which I'm grateful for. And really, the catalyst to that was the Great Recession, 2008, 2009. So as much as it sucked going through that for a lot of people, to me, it just opened my eyes to, why does everyone say jobs are so secure when all these people are losing their jobs? It's basically they were, self-employed with one client. That client fired them. And now they have all these things, all this stuff that they have to pay for, and they don't have a way to pay for it. And it's things that never fulfilled them anyway. So, probably ever since then, I've really just been on a mission with, my vision in mind of, I want to enjoy what I do every day. And I want to wake up excited for the day. I was in the same rat race as everybody else, where we were dreading the morning every day and we didn't want to wake up. And, Sunday night was terrible because we had to go back to work on Monday. And to me, it made no sense. It just didn't compute of why we would do this for like 40 to 50 years and then try to enjoy life when we probably physically, mentally, can't actually do it. And financially, we might not be able to do it either, running that rat race. So yeah, I was lucky enough, grateful enough to realize it fairly quickly that I needed to do something different, because you only got one life, and doing something you don't love every day doesn't really make sense.
Sure. And so, I mean, not that 2007, 8, 9 boundary. What age were you then, and what stage were you at in your life?
Yeah, so I would have been like 22, 23 when I graduated from university, moved to Chicago with the goal of climbing climbing the corporate ladder, working in the finance industry. I always loved numbers. I love math. And I don't know if I wanted to be, but everyone told me that's what I wanted to be. So I just, you kind of become a product of your environment. So I was on the mission to get that corner office, go get my MBA and do all these things, just because that's what we're supposed to do, right? Like, I don't know, I wanted to do it, but I don't know if I wanted to do it because I really wanted to do it, or because everyone else wanted me to do it. And that's what society told us. So, I was 22, 23 when I moved to Chicago, and then I left there in 2010. So I'd have been like 25, 26 there. So fairly young, people told me I was crazy. And my thought process was, I want to at least do this. And if it doesn't work out, at least I don't have the regret of saying, I wonder what would have happened if I quit my job and went traveling and started my own business. Because I knew I could always go get another job. And I didn't need to make a lot of money to be happy. And then I realized that really, once I was in South America, I was like, I really don't need to make a lot of money. And then through the process of entrepreneurship, I realized that I can actually make a lot of money if I'm doing something I love every day, because that passion, that fire really does burn, and you're on kind of a mission to make a difference.
If you were to summarize what fire in the belly means, what's your definition of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say there's kind of two parts of it for me. One, waking up every day, like fired up, excited to do what I'm about to do that day. So, if anybody listens to Gary Vee, I took this away from him a while ago, and he kind of equates it to like, this is your profession. Like a professional athlete is pumped. They're excited for the day. Like, I get to go play basketball. I get to go play golf or whatever. And I was that way when I was a little kid. I was a big golfer. I like to fish. I like to play basketball. I like to play baseball. So like, I still remember like the night before a golf tournament, like I couldn't sleep because I was so excited to get up, get to the golf course, just because I was so excited. And then once I started working in the corporate world, I was like, I don't want to get up. Like, now I'm fired up. As we were talking before the show, I got a 4-year-old. She gets up at 6 o'clock at the latest. So I'm up at 4 o'clock, ready to start the day, get my kind of personal day going before, her and I and my wife get to hang out before everyone goes their separate ways. So that's the first part. And then what do I get to do every day? I get to help business owners. I get to help them make their dreams a reality. I help them build an awesome business and build an even better life. So that's really the second part of it is, I'm able to leave an impact, make a difference. Whereas before, when I was sitting in a cubicle, I was literally making no difference, making no impact, didn't have any, gratification to the job, because I was just doing a job to, make the shareholders happy, to make the stock price go up. And I was super interchangeable. Like if I disappeared, nobody would really care. And I didn't want, at the end of it, when it's all said and done, whether my funeral's tomorrow or 40 years from now or 100 years from now, we don't know, who's going to show up and what difference did you make? And I realized that if I just sit in this cubicle or this office for like 40 years, like I'm not really making a difference, and I'm not taking advantage of the one life that we at least know that we have.
It's a sad thought in a lot of ways, as you say, that you realize you're in a position, but I mean, how did it happen that you got so far down the pipe before you actually sort of had the light bulb moment, really?
Yeah. So, at first I didn't know any different, so I was just following what everyone told me to do. And kind of ironically, my first job in Chicago, I literally lasted 6 weeks, not because I got fired, but because I went and got another job. But after 6 weeks, I was like, this is it. Like, this is all I'm going to do. So I started looking for another job, got another job, figured that one out within like 6 to 12 months. That was at a bigger bank, more moving parts. And then I got another job within the bank. So then I was like, I know I'm supposed to stay in one position so I can climb the corporate ladder, but literally like I'm getting bored. Like I figured out the job and there is no challenge. And I would say probably like two of the biggest moments that I can still remember. The first one, I was naive enough to think that there would be a reward for going to my boss and saying, hey, like I'm getting done with my work by noon every day. So like, if you want to give me more work, I'm naively thinking maybe they'll like give me more money because I'm going to be doing two people's jobs, because I can get two people's jobs done in a day. And that wasn't the case. So they just dumped much more work on me, and like, oh, this is great. We're getting a better return on this human being and we don't have to pay him anymore. And I realized the inefficiencies of the corporate world. Most people probably work 3 to 4 hours a day. And then the other time, they're really not getting anything productive done. So that was the first real like aha moment of like, this doesn't make sense. I'd rather get compensated for the bigger results that I'm getting. And the second one was, we had our computers and they had a screensaver, and we were right in downtown Chicago. So my lunch every day, I would actually bring my lunch because I was too cheap to go buy lunch every day, or maybe I wasn't too cheap, but either way, I packed my lunch every day. But then I would take my hour lunch break to just go walk around the city, go to the park, walk by the lake, just get out of the environment that I didn't love. And when I got back one day, my manager was like, hey, you're only supposed to be gone for an hour. And we know you've been gone for more than an hour because your screensaver turned on and it turns on at 60 minutes. And I'm thinking, does that really matter if I'm getting all my work done? But then I'm also thinking, well, I'm just going to turn the screensaver off so I can go take a longer lunch. So playing those games like that got old. That just wasn't that fun. Where I'd rather be in control of my day. What am I going to do? Who am I going to help? So those are probably like two defining moments as I look back that just gave me super, really good clarity of this rat race is just not for me.
It is. It's crazy when people are input based as opposed to output based. As you say, like I say, that, that 60-minute screensaver, it's like, okay, it's like, I'm surprised you know this. And yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I've always, like, ever since then, I've really brought it, to my employees and anybody else I'm working with. It's like, you shouldn't be compensated how long it takes you. You should be compensated on what the result you get. If you could get the result in 10 minutes instead of 2 days, I'll still pay you the same amount because I want it done quicker anyway. And I don't want you to just be like, what am I going to do for the next 2 days in order to get paid, even though I've already figured this out. So it's just a lot of those things in the corporate world to me is just like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up. Like, there's got to be more to life than this.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that. But take us right back, Paul. So, I mean, talk to us about your growing up and family and really your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Michigan. So for people that don't know, Michigan is very blue collar. All the big automakers, the big U.S. automakers, they're based there. GM, Ford, Chrysler, and everybody. It was very blue collar. All of my friends' parents, they all worked for GM. I lived just outside of Flint, Michigan, which everybody's probably heard of Flint, Michigan, because they had terrible water. But that was where a lot of GM workers worked. So all of my friends' parents, they worked at GM or a subsidiary of GM or a supplier of GM. And it was very blue collar. And my parents actually didn't work there. My dad ran his own hardwood floor business, manual labor. And he, along with a lot of the people that he surrounded himself with, were kind of the same. One-man bands, one-woman bands, doing blue collar work, whether it's construction, plumbing, HVAC, all those different things. And everyone's like, don't do what I did. Don't start your own business. You need to go use your brains instead of your muscles or whatever you want to call it, so you can preserve your body. Cause this is kind of backbreaking work sometimes. And to me, this was like pre-internet. This is when entrepreneurship wasn't a thing. And that was the only business ownership I knew. It was, basically people that have a job they're tied to 24/7. And they all told me, don't do that. And I was good in school. I got good grades, and that's really what I pursued was, hey, this is what I want to do because I don't want to go do that physical work. Ironically, now I love businesses that do physical work because there's such opportunity in there because nobody wants to do it or they don't think they want to do it because the system is telling that. So anyway, I grew up playing a lot of sports, baseball, basketball, golf, like I said, fishing. I was always doing something. And I started working really young. So, I think I'm grateful that my parents said, hey, if you want to drive a car and you want to get your license, that's great, but you're going to have to pay your way for this thing. So I started working when I was 14, washing dishes, minimum wage. It was $5.15 an hour at the time. And I remember I got my first raise to $5.25 an hour, but didn't know any different. I was washing dishes at a golf course from the time I was 14 until I was 16. And then once I turned 16, it allowed me to work outside of the golf course. So I was cleaning clubs, manning the bag room, working on the driving range, just always, outside working, doing that full time. In Michigan, the golf season's only about 6 months long. So worked at the golf course. And when it was time to go to college, it was, what do you want to do? And I didn't really know, but I knew I had to go to college. So, long story short, went to college, got a finance degree. At the time, my mom worked in the finance world as well. She worked her way up all the way from just a regular teller making minimum wage. She eventually went back to school as an adult, got her degree. So she was kind of my, inspiration from a finance part. And then looking back at it just from an entrepreneur standpoint, that's where my dad kind of came in and he really built a successful business. He did really great work. He always had a line out the door, but he did just the basic things that most businesses don't do. He answered his phone. He called people back. He showed up when he said he was going to show up. He did what he said he was going to do at the price they agreed on, and just doing business the right way. I realized all those simple things, you can be really successful. So that was me growing up, always was outside playing sports. did pretty well in school and, started working at a young age, which I am grateful for because it really taught me the value of putting in time in order to make money. And then that money can allow you to do other things. So originally it was to buy a truck. And even before that, I was big into baseball cards. So I bought every basketball, baseball card. That was like my parents' generation. So my dad and everybody that he grew up with, all their moms threw all the cards out. So cards are really expensive. And, hey, if you save onto these, you can retire early. So I spent all my money basically on golf stuff, baseball cards, and like fishing lures and fishing stuff. So, but I was able to learn at a young age the dollar and how work plays into that. So I think, a lot of what I do today is based on, what I was growing up. And then, like I said, once I graduated university, I moved over to Chicago and then I went from there.
That's, even that sort of 12-year-old or younger, what, who would we have met? Were you outgoing or introvert or what sort of?
Yeah. So I was a smart ass to say the least. So,
honest.
Yeah, me and my mom butted heads a lot because I was kind of a smart ass. I was the shortest person in my class. So you wouldn't know it today, but even graduating high school, I was the shortest kid when I graduated high school. I was like 5'6". So I didn't grow until college. So I think that, really benefited me well because obviously I got picked on a lot and I always had comebacks for that. Playing basketball, I was the shortest kid. So everyone thought I wasn't that good. And then I would play a lot of mental games. I talked a lot of smack and got people upset. Got a lot of people technical fouls because they'd get really upset. I was good at getting under people's skin. So growing up, I was tiny. Baseball, I was the leadoff hitter. Basketball, I was the point guard. But I think I'm grateful for going through all that. It made me tougher, made me who I am today. And really able to beat people in different ways than just, hey, I'm taller than you or, hey, I'm bigger than you. And if you ask my wife, she doesn't like getting in arguments with me still because I can find a way to get under her skin. And even though no one technically wins an argument, she can see when I'm walking her down a path that there is no point of no return. So I was always that way, growing up, always saved my money so that I could spend it on something that I wanted to save up for, whether it was a truck or whether it was that box of baseball cards. And I'm still the same way today. I don't really need any money day to day, but I like to save my money so that I can go buy something, whether it's, now it's more of investing in businesses or buying a piece of property or something like that. But yeah, growing up, smallest kid, scrappy, pretty good at sports, all things considered, and got under a lot of people's skin with my words.
I like that. Yeah, I have this vision of this slightly foul-mouthed short person giving it Dixie.
Yeah. So my mom still remembers the first time I got in trouble in school. I got really good grades. And my dad, I learned all this after the fact, but my dad's reasoning with my mom was if he's getting all A's, he's getting, 4.0, we can't really discipline him too much because he's doing what he's supposed to. So I would get done with my work faster than most. And then I would just start stirring the pot and picking on people. And the very first time I got in trouble, I still remember it. It was elementary school. I think I was in 4th grade. It was in music class. And I was always very practical. So I don't know. I still remember this because my mom actually happened to walk into school one day and she saw me sitting all by myself because I got kind of kicked out of the class as a 8-year-old or 9-year-old, whatever it was. But the teacher said, hey, what's different between this guy and all the other people in this picture? And it was the conductor. And I don't know why I remember this so clear, but it was the conductor and everybody else. The conductor was really old. Everyone else singing and playing instruments, whatever, was really young. And I said, he's got gray hair and nobody else does. And that was just who I was, kind of mouthing off, getting in trouble, doing stupid things, and my mom would always fight my dad after the fact of well, he's stirring the pot and he's getting in trouble and he's got bad, marks on citizenship and all that stuff. And my dad's like, well, he's getting a grade, so we can't really do anything about it. So that was who I was growing up, always kind of stirring the pot, poking the bear, and getting under people's skin.
Do you know why?
Tell me, Pete.
No, I was curious. I think
it's, I don't really know why.
Mm.
I still am that way today. You know, I don't speak until I'm for certain, like if it's stirring the pot,
Mm.
you know, I don't speak until I'm pretty confident in my answer. But I think it was because I was like, when I was in ninth grade, so I would have been 14, I was literally 90 pounds. So I think I took so much crap from other people that I had to come up with a way to kind of defend myself. And I knew I was smarter than most people. I just knew that. Um, even growing up, my teachers and my parents, my family, like, you need to be an attorney when you're older because you will win a lot of cases. And that was a pipe dream because I didn't want to go to law school and I didn't want to.
Mm.
I hated reading. I never read a book. I didn't read a book until I owned my first business because I just didn't enjoy reading. I didn't like English class and any of that. So I don't know why exactly. And maybe part of it was looking for attention because I was the smallest person. So I wanted people to know that I was still there. But I think a lot of it stems from people kind of, you know, I don't really like the term bullying, but, you know, bigger kids or kids that's just what they do. They pick on the smallest kid. I needed a way to defend myself, and it was usually with words, and I knew I was smarter than most people. So I could put them in a corner and kind of win the argument that way. So I think it just fed into everything else.
It almost sounds like you were slightly under challenged in those times. You know, if you were sort of fighting above your own grade, really, you were mentally anyway.
I was, and that was my mom always fought with my teachers, and they're like, he gets his work done first, and then he just starts stirring the pot, poking on people, you know, I would put my locker like I put my lock from my locker on other people's lockers just to mess with them, or take their lock off and put it on upside down and backwards so they couldn't, you know, get and turn the little thing. But yeah, I wasn't challenged. And for the subjects that I didn't like, I just totally tuned out. Like, I don't want to read this book. Internet was starting to come. That was when we really had to start reading like novels and writing book reports. And I would just go to Cliff Notes or Spark Notes to like figure out what this book's about, because I am not reading this book. It doesn't hold my interest. So the things I did love, I was all in on. Math was awesome. Like, I liked that challenge. I liked the science because there was always a right answer and a wrong answer. In the ones that are English or read this book and tell me what it means, there is no right or wrong answer. It's just kind of what you think or what the teacher thinks. But yeah, I was always either disinterested or not challenged enough. And I think that's probably why, you know, once I was able to quit my job and start my own business for the first time, that was finally like I met my match, and I would get rewarded accordingly based on the problems that I'm solving. So, you know, it was nice to finally be to a point where, you know, if anybody saw the movie Office Space, doing just enough to not get fired, like, that was kind of my life until I was like 25. And then finally I'm like, okay, I need a challenge where I can do more and get compensated, whether it's more people that I am able to impact or the money that I'm making based on the people that I'm serving.
I mean, nowadays, would that be diagnosed as a form of like an ADHD, dyslexia type thing, or do you think maybe it was just?
Yeah, I don't really know. That, I mean, I've various opinions on that. Definitely not dyslexic, because I could read and then I would just like I could read really well. I just didn't love reading books that I didn't care about. You know, like, why do I have to read The Catcher in the Rye, or why do I have to read, you know, A Brave New World, or whatever the books that everyone had to read growing up? Like, I don't need to read this. And even now, like, now my beliefs on that are like, why do I need to remember who the president was in 1814 when I can just Google it? Like, those classes, like, just made, like, to me, it was like, I don't need to know this. Why do I care what happened in this when I could just look it up? So maybe ADHD, you know, maybe not being challenged enough. To me, the whole school system, especially now, at least here in the States, everyone's got to fit in this box. You got to pass these standardized tests.
Sure.
So if you are above that, you're still stuck in this box. And I felt, even once I went to the corporate world, I was still stuck in this box, because the politics in the corporate world of, well, even though you're really good, you're not going to get promoted because this person's been here longer, or this is best friends with that person and they know that person. And it's like, I'd rather be in control of everything. At least, you know, if I lose, I lose because of me. And if I win, it's because of me, not because of the school system, or not because of, you know, who's my manager and they don't like me and they like that person more, or that person's here longer, or that person brings them coffee every day, or whatever the politics are in the corporate world. So maybe ADHD, you know, but even then, I really don't like putting labels on people, because
Mm.
if you think about like when I was growing up in elementary school, we had 3 recesses. So like there weren't kids bouncing off the wall because we got to go outside and run around and get the energy out. We go to gym class. We would be outside for like an hour and a half every day. And now, at least here, the kids get recess for like once every couple days, and it's like 20 or 30 minutes. Like, no wonder these kids are bouncing off the walls. They're full of energy and they can't go let it out. So yeah, now they have ADHD, but would they, if we were actually able to get them outside? Like, statistics, science, studies prove that we learn better when we're doing things and not just sitting there studying for a standardized test, just so that way the teacher has a job and they get funded and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's I'm very passionate about like a lot of those things, because I feel we're taking a lot away from what kids could do because we're just telling what they should do.
Absolutely, I get it. And funny, the Jay Shetty, he does this
Yeah.
kind of video about, why would you teach a fish to climb a tree? It's just,
Right.
it's. I think the adage there, the sort of acronym there is, I think it's great. Just quite simply going, yeah, what are we doing? It's like, he
Right.
was the president in X, Y, and Z. Hey, listen, if history's your thing, that's cool, that's okay. But same as trigonometry, is like, when's the last time you worked out the angle of the isosceles triangle?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm all for like,
Hmm.
once you need the answer, then you go get it. Like, hey, I need to figure out the area of the circle because I'm doing something cool. Let me Google, how do I figure out the area of a circle? Now, obviously there's like secondary and tertiary things of why we need to learn these things. It's usually not because we need to use them in real life. It's just so we can have other skills. But I think we'd be a lot better off if we taught people real life skills, like financial literacy of what happens if you take out a credit card, what happens when you write a check. What is the power of compound interest? What is the power of going to get a car loan and paying 15% interest? How is that detriment? Like, those things and how to navigate the world, in my opinion, are way more important than, like you said, how do we figure out the area of this, or what's the square root of that? If that's your thing, great. You can go get a PhD in it and you can love on it and do it. But there's way too many people getting into problems in this world because they don't have basic life skills that we never taught them, because we're trying to teach them all these other things. Me being a finance person, like just looking at all the businesses that I work in, it's like, if you just had some financial literacy, you would be so much more well off, and you wouldn't be at the mercy of all this other, all the other debt that you're getting into or whatever. So it's, I don't know if or when it'll change, but yeah, that's always been kind of a passion thing for me, of just teaching people the basics of the power, of interest or money, and how it can be a really good tool or a huge burden on your life.
It's amazing how, as you say, people just don't know. I know. I mean, I'm the same. It's, I'm a property investor by trade, but it was a long time before, everything from gross returns to net profits to, sort of, as you say, compound interest, and working that all out. So it's kind of, how do kids get so far without knowing this stuff?
Right. Yeah. And then they end up buying a house with terrible terms or whatever, when if you could just set them up for success there, and yeah, you still need to learn the basics. So you kind of know things of, the basics of math and history and all that. But, can we sprinkle in some real life skills that they could use when they turn 18, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, move out, go make decisions based on what you know. And I know I was, lucky enough where my mom especially taught me a lot of that stuff and how a checkbook works and all that stuff. But it just happened to be because that's what she worked in, but I had plenty of friends in college that were like, I don't know, how does a check work? Where does the money come when you write a check? This was when checks were a little bit more prevalent, but even then it's like student loans. Like, how does that work? I don't know. They just dumped a bunch of money in my account. Like, I had friends that got way more student loans than they needed, and they spent that money on things that they were probably going to regret later, whether it's going out to eat or buying things or going to the bar or whatever, just because they didn't know any different.
Out of curiosity, I mean, how would you manage you at that age now? I mean, looking back, how could you
Yeah,
be?
that's a good question, Pete. So, obviously having a 4-year-old who is half me, I'm going to have to figure that out even, and I'm not saying my parents did me wrong. They were just doing what they thought was best. And that's
Sure.
all we can do as parents, because there is no manual of what you should and shouldn't do. Um, I'm more of a proponent of give them access to everything and let them figure it out. So, hey, try everything. Don't try and live your life through your kid's life. If she grows up and she says, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to college, I want to go do this, I would totally support that. Because if you look at 18-year-olds, they don't know what they want to do for the rest of their life. And the best we can do is give her all the tools she needs to succeed and let her figure out what works best. So keeping all those options open. If you want to go be a plumber, you can make way more money being a plumber than going to get a master's in psychology or, the history of basket weaving or all these crazy degrees that people get just because they don't know what they want to do, which is fine. But then all of a sudden they're in student debt, a couple $100,000. So, helping her navigate the world and, on the experience that I've had, but also letting them kind of decide where do they really want to go. If she feels the desire to, hey, I want to get into horse riding, or, hey, I want to get into golf. My first business was around junior golf and youth tennis and helping elementary kids get in, just making it more accessible. And I saw way too many parents who looked at their kid as a scholarship, or, hey, I never got to do this, so I want you to do it. And there's way too many kids playing a sport that they didn't want to play just because their parents wanted them to play it so much. So I would love if my daughter played golf, played basketball, played tennis, did all the things that I did. And the most I can do is introduce it to her. And if she says, Dad, I just don't like it, I'm going to just say, that's fine. What do you want to do? So I didn't get forced in any of the sports. My dad introduced them to all me and I loved them and I ran with it. My sister didn't love sports. She tried them, didn't love them. But then as you get to the point where you have to figure out what's your next step in his life, and all of a sudden you're 18 and an adult, if you don't want to go to school or you want to go take classes at the community college and save money, at that point, I don't really care. The best I can do is say, hey, this is what I found that works and doesn't work based on my life experience. But if that's what you want to do, go do it. Because I'm from the standpoint of, I don't want to have regrets when I die. And I'd rather have tried something and failed, because it's really just a micro failure and it's a big learning opportunity, instead of saying, I wonder what would have happened if I would have done X, Y, and Z. So that's probably how I would manage little Paul. Hopefully it's the same way that my wife and I manage our daughter. Give them access to everything, give them opportunities to everything, and let them figure out what works best for them and what makes them tick.
It makes sense, and I suppose the key is, you have to let them sort of feel the heat of the fire enough to sort of help them decide what they really want, rather than sort of saying, here's the autopilot and we can set you on this course now until you're 21 and then we'll spit you out the other end, but at least you'll have a piece of paper to your name, and you're like, great, I've got shed load of university or college debt, and I've got this, and I don't know why I'm here, and I'm lost, and who are you, and what's going on? And
yeah, for sure. And I think that the first part you mentioned is huge too, of letting them learn that too, instead of just putting it on a platter for them, learning the value of hard work, learning the value of $1, learning that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, there are repercussions. We're not going to solve everything for you. You're going to learn the hard way. You're going to cry. We're going to cry. But at the end of it, when you're older, you'll be like, thank you. And I tell my mom that, because I gave her a hell of a time, for the first 18 years. And now I say, I'm glad you did what you did, because it did teach us a lot, just even the little things of picking up the phone and saying thank you for someone that sent you a birthday card or whatever, being grateful, and kind of the golden rule of teaching treating people the way you want to be treated.
who do you take after, your mom or your dad?
That's a good question. So I would say it's a combination of both. I would say I've learned from both equally, whether it's things they did right or the things they did wrong. I would say from a financial standpoint, I definitely take after my mom, just being financially savvy, saving money, having the bigger, longer vision. My dad is more of a, hey, let's enjoy life today because we don't know what tomorrow holds. And I am that way, but I don't want to sacrifice. Like, it's a fine line of, yes, I want to go to South America for 2 months, but the way I'm going to do it isn't going to cost an arm and a leg. I'm not going to go travel 5-star. I'm not going to stay in hotels. I'm going to backpack. I'm going to take a bus. I'm going to stay in hostels. So I can, explore all of that. I would say probably more my mom from from that career aspect of enjoying now, but also, saving for later. And I think part of that is just watching a lot of people from 2007 to 2010 lose everything too. Watching them lose everything. I was like, I don't want to be like that person because they lost their job and they lost everything. So I want to be in a position where if a worldwide pandemic hits and coronavirus shuts down the world for 4 or 5 months, like we're okay. Like we're not, living paycheck to paycheck, and we are okay. So I would say overall, I'd probably take after my mom more, which is funny because the first 18 years of your life, I'd be like, he does not take after you at all. He's just like his dad. From a personality standpoint, I would say from like a social joking standpoint, there's a lot of things that I get from my dad. My dad is, he's always joking. He's always doing things like that. And I was talking to my mom yesterday, and I said something, and she's like, you sound just like your dad. So there's equal amounts of both, but I would say from a career financial standpoint, it's definitely more my mom.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. So you're going through that, what's happening next then? So you're in the finance industry, and where are you getting to? What's on your mind?
Yeah. So kind of like we had alluded to several times, I realized it wasn't for me. I want to do something that I really enjoyed doing every day. So when I quit, went to South America, ended up in Raleigh. That's where my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, my wife's living. So moved here, didn't really know what my next step was. I just knew I wasn't going to work for the man for the rest of my life. So long story short, I started my business. Like I said, we were running after school golf and tennis programs for elementary kids. So 10 and under kids, making golf and tennis more accessible, turning it into a sport just like any other sport that's accessible for kids, getting rid of the country club stigma. So I loved golf. I loved kids. And, I loved the concept of waking up every day and being able to change someone's life, of just the values you learn from sports and the ability to give these kids an outlet after school. They've been cooped up all day in the school, so they can come run around, get the energy out, learn a new sport, make friends, and really give them some lifelong skills. So when I went into that venture, I wasn't doing it for the money. And I said, if I could make $30,000 a year just hanging out with kids and hiring coaches to help me run this program, life would be great. And I did that within 1 year, and then everybody else wanted it too. And obviously along the way, there was plenty of bumps. I thought if I just called any school, they'd be like, yeah, come on, let's do it. Yeah. But I called every school in my area and nobody called me back. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this is the best thing ever. And nobody wants it. So, almost quit. Really was questioning myself. Did I make the right decision? But eventually our first season, kind of the first semester, we had 3 or 4 schools that said, yeah, let's do it. Through a lot of perseverance, follow up, and kind of cutting my teeth on sales. I didn't know nothing about sales at the time. But eventually we had success. We scaled the business very well. But I got to the point where I was working like 60 to 80 hours a week, which I didn't mind. Like, I enjoyed every hour that I worked. It was way better than sitting in a cubicle for 40 to 60 hours, but I knew it wasn't sustainable. And I was at a point where I literally couldn't bring any more kids, any more clients, any more schools on board with this program because there was no more of my time. I had plenty of coaches out running the programs, but I was doing everything else, customer service, emails, phone calls, admin work, sales, marketing. I was doing it all. So the question I asked myself at that point was, what happens if I got hit by a bus? And if I got hit by a bus, the business would go to zero really quickly. And that was when, kind of bringing it all full circle, that was when I read my first ever book and started listening to podcasts, consuming content, because I knew other people had figured this out. The bank I worked at figured it out, and they did it terribly, but they had 100,000 employees. And I thought if they could figure it out, I could figure it out with, a couple dozen employees. So originally I was super scared to delegate. It was my baby. I didn't want to give up control. Nobody could run this business as well as I could. Nobody knew how to talk to customers like I did. until I remember when I quit my job. So when I quit my job, the worst case scenario was this business doesn't work out and I just go get another job. With this, if I hire a team of leaders to surround myself with, hey, we're going to grow this business together, and if it doesn't work out, the work's just going to come back to me, and it's already with me anyway. So what do I have to lose? So that was really kind of the tipping point of, like I said, reading books, listening to podcasts, learning from people who have done what I'm trying to do. And then I did it. So I built a business that could, survive and thrive without me. I had an awesome leadership team. And then eventually sold that business. So sold that business, not because I didn't like it anymore, but, it was selling it was going to get me to the next step of kind of building the life that me and my wife really wanted, having a business. We scaled it, but now we could really capitalize on all the hard work that we put into it, and we can go find another opportunity. So that was kind of the next, I would say, step in my journey. And along the way, obviously there was a lot of ups and downs along the way, but now, and I've done this several times now with other businesses here that I've either bought or invested in or partnered in. But to be able to take all that experience and help other business owners get to where they want to go so much quicker with a lot less headaches, a lot less pain, that's really what fires me up every day.
That's great. It's you mentioned there sort of books and personal developments. Can you tell us where did that start for you? And
yeah, so this would have been like 2012-ish. So podcasts started to become a thing. I had never listened to podcasts. Like I said, never read a book. But I was at a place where, I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing. So when I was in the cubicle, my why, my vision, my drive was to get out of the cubicle. So like I got out of it. I did it. I accomplished it. And I thought this was it. Like going back to when I was growing up, that's all I saw as business ownership. Like, yeah, you're kind of married to your business. You do it 24/7, but that's business ownership. So I just thought I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life until I, hit that tipping point where it's like, there is a bigger demand in this market and I can't capture it because I am the roadblock. I am the one getting in the way of making a bigger impact. So I started listening to podcasts. A friend of mine was like, hey, have you ever listened to podcasts? You should check out Entrepreneur on Fire. You should check out Smart Passive Income. And that really got me starting to think of like, hey, I can build a business that doesn't need me every day. And it could be, I don't believe in passive income, but I believe if you put in the work, you can then turn all that work into a passive income stream. So I put in the work, I put 60 to 80 hours a week in, and I wanted to reap the rewards with a business that could run without me. And once it could run without me, I could either sell it, I could hold on to it, and then it kind of becomes a passive income stream. I could hire somebody to run it for me and it becomes even more of a passive income stream. So started listening to those podcasts. And then that's when I really started getting into books. I still remember the first two books that I read. One was The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Really great book, kind of got me hooked on reading. And then the second book was Built to Sell. And it was about building a business that is sellable, even if you don't want to sell it. So, I got to that pain point and I realized there's other businesses out there that don't need the owner 24/7. And I've always challenged myself, if they can do it, I know I can do it, because they're no different than I am. We just are lacking maybe training, education, information, because it wasn't a physical thing. Like I couldn't play in the NBA because I just wasn't tall enough. Yes, there's one Muggsy Bogues and one Spud Webb, but being a 5'6" white kid in high school, like odds are against me and like, I'm not going to be in the NBA, but I knew with my brain that there was no obstacle. There was no limits because access to information was, more prevalent than ever. It was really just coming down to how bad do you want it? And growing up especially playing basketball, I knew that I could beat them on things that I could control. Defense and how hard do you work? Are you willing to work harder than anybody? I know I can beat them. I can beat them down the floor. I can get in their head and I can play better defense because I can control how hard I work. And I knew if I work really hard, then I start getting into their head. So I started always focusing on what can I control? Let's go all in on that. And the things that I can't control, we might as well ignore it. So I've always been pretty good on that. So that was kind of the tipping point, getting into podcast, started listening to a lot of that, and then reading books. Like I said, Built to Sell and Go-Giver were kind of the first two. And that kind of started me on a personal development journey of just always be learning from people who are at positions where you want to be, surrounding yourself, with other awesome people instead of the people that, when I was in the cubicle life, I surrounded myself with people that were like me, people that didn't like their job. They complained about it. They couldn't wait till 5 o'clock. They loved going to the bar to get away from it. And that was fun for a little while, but eventually it was like, okay, where is this getting me? So that's really kind of when it started, when it clicked of I'm having success. And now I am the one in the way of having more success. And I need to figure this out because I know if other people can do it, I can do it too.
Who was the sort of mentors and inspirational heroes around you that that you were looking to decide to read the books and the podcasts, or to push you on? Is there anyone stands out for you?
Yeah. So I would say at first it was really just that. So like people that wrote books around podcasts, like not people that I knew personally, but then eventually started building a circle here where I live of other people that are doing the same thing. So, just going to meetups and putting yourself in a room of other people that are trying to do the same things that you're doing and sharing resources and pushing each other, holding each other accountable. And then as I've gone along, I'm a huge fan of masterminds and getting together. I love being the dumbest person in the room, which is probably why I love hosting my own podcast too, because I just like to dig and dig and dig and keep asking questions. So there's not real one person that it's like kind of my guru or my mentor. It's just a collection of people. And I always think of like, why am I at this place right now? And then it could be like 12 months later, like, oh, that person talked about this, and that's why I'm doing this. So always trying to find kind of that silver lining of, why did I run into Mighty Pete? What is he going to teach me today that I can then take with me? And if it's that one nugget, the 1 to 2 hours that we're going to spend together is well worth it, especially compared to what most people waste their time on.
And it is interesting, it is a waste of time. I know it's perception, but there's so many opportunities out there, and yet we're living life to somebody else's terms, or watching a TV program, or doing whatever. And right, it's forgetting to live our own life.
Yeah, it really is. And it's super prevalent, keeping up with the Joneses, trying to one up your neighbor, trying to look good on Facebook, look at the new car I got, or, and then when in reality inside, they're probably miserable. So, everyone can put on a really good image. And once you get down deep, it could be a hot mess, and they're playing a game that you can't win. And we all fall into it. Bright, shiny objects are a real thing. And Pete's doing this, I bet if I do that. And then we just get so distracted and we're just bouncing around like a ping pong ball. But yeah, when you can run your own race, and, for me, when you can dream together, if you're married or you have a significant other, if your joint vision matches up, that's really all that matters. Doesn't really matter what the neighbor's doing, or they just got a new boat, or, they just put in a new patio, or whatever it is. For me, I just want to run my race. I want to learn from as many people as I can. I want to impact as many people as I can. And I don't really want to have any regrets. And I saw way too many people in the corporate world, they regretted buying that boat, or they regretted buying that second house. They regretted doing all these things, just physical things that really don't add any value. Now, I'm all for enjoying life, but for me, it's always been more about experiences. I don't remember what it cost me to go through South America for 2 months, but the return on investment for me personally on that was way more than buying a car. Like, once you drive the car off the lot, it just doesn't do anything for you, and the newness wears off. I've driven the same car since I've lived here. It's 12 years old, and to me, it just gets me from point A to point B. I don't really care what I drive. Yeah, it'd be nicer to have a nicer car, but is it really going to make my life any better? Probably not. And there's plenty of studies that show that it doesn't. It leads to even more regret. So I've always been about experiences. I rather spend that money on things that are going to make my life better, whether it's going into a mastermind, going to a conference, or me and my family going on a nice trip and experiencing things versus, physical things.
How do you maintain a focus on those blinkers that, as you say, because there is shiny objects and there's other stuff going on, but, how do you maintain that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Pete. So a couple things. One, like I said, I'm a huge fan of masterminds. So having people who their best interest is your best interest, and they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to say, Paul, I know you can do that. I know you want to prove to everybody else that you can do it, but it's not getting you closer to your goal. So that's one thing. The other thing I'm a big fan of is the 12-week year by Brian Moran. So it's, how to get more done in 12 weeks than most people get done in 12 months. And that's really keeps you focused, because you basically have 2 or 3 goals for the next 12 weeks. And if whatever you're doing isn't getting you closer to that, then you put it off to the back burner. But I would say the ultimate thing that really holds me accountable is my vision. What does my ideal life look like? And that can become the ultimate filter. If whatever I'm doing today is not getting me closer to that, why am I doing it? And if there is no reason to do it, I don't need to do it. Or if somebody else could do it, I can delegate it. I can outsource it. So that personal vision, which is really a family vision of what does our ideal life look like, that's really, we just run it through that filter. And if my actions today or my wife's actions today isn't getting us closer to it, why in the hell are we actually doing it? So we have that pretty clear vision of where we want to go. And it's just a matter of putting in the works, putting in the reps to get there. So I would say those 3 things: surround yourself with people, who want to see you succeed. You want that accountability. That's one thing for sure. 12-week year is huge for me because I always want to prove to myself and other people that I can do something. And the further along I get in entrepreneurship, there's more things that I know I can do, but there are more things that I shouldn't be doing. So 12-week year, and then just getting really clear on your vision. So like we had talked about, there was a couple of years when I was getting into business ownership. I didn't really have a vision. I was just keeping the ship afloat, doing just enough to get by, keeping the hamster wheel moving, because I didn't know I needed another vision. I thought whatever I was at was it, because that's all I'd ever known.
It's a great way to be, to have that vision. How do you manage, or do you manage in terms of your own blind side? So there's certain things you're obviously excel at, and but there's things that I'm guessing you're maybe not just perfect at, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of things that I'm either not good at or I hate doing. So I'm a huge fan of delegating or partnering with other people that are good at that. And when initially in my journey, I wanted to do everything. Like I wanted to figure it out. Now I'm not saying people should ignore it. I see way too many business owners ignore their financials, ignore their marketing, and they just say, well, I'm going to focus on what I'm good at. And then I look at their financials. I'm like, this is a hot mess. And the bookkeeper doesn't really care because they're just doing their job and they don't own this. So, but I'm a huge fan of delegating, focusing on your strengths. I know what I'm really good at. I know what I love doing. And when you can kind of put all that together into making money and making a career out of it, whether it's your passion, your purpose, and what you're really good at, if you can put all that together, it's going to be an awesome day. There's things that I'm good at that I don't like doing. There's things that I don't like doing that I'm not good at. And I try and find other people, whether I hire them or I partner with them. So originally, when I first started business ownership, I want to own 100% of everything. And now I've realized that I rather partner with people who are really good at the things that I'm not good at or I don't like doing, because it also gives me more freedom. Yes, I don't own 100% of the business, but I am in 100% control of what I really want to do every day. And it allows me the freedom. So I'm really good at systems, processes, financials, operations, all things behind the scenes, which I can do from anywhere, which is really nice. And I can do it at any time. I don't want to be constrained at, I get up at 4 a.m. I don't want to wait till 9 o'clock to call a customer. So I don't want to call customers. I want to give someone else that job. So having the self-awareness and having the confidence in other people that, hey, they can do it just as well as you can. So that's really how I handle that, and it takes time. It's like building a muscle. You have to trust people. You have to realize most people in this world are good people. They're not going to do things wrong on purpose. They're just not going to do them the way you want it done because you didn't give them something. So whether that's training, support, infrastructure, standard operating procedures, whatever. But I know what I love doing. I know what fires me up. And I have learned over time that it's okay to trust other people. So my last 2 business ventures are really partnerships and letting people do what they really love doing while I can do what I really love doing. And, the sum of all that is bigger than if I owned it all.
Okay. You mentioned those 2 partnerships. I mean, what do you look for in a partnership?
So I look more for things that I can't teach people: work ethic, communication, empathy, gratitude, like things that it's people that I would want to hang out with, even if we weren't doing business together, because I can't teach you how to work hard. I can't teach you that you need to be on time. I can't teach you that you need to wake up. Like, you can only take that so far. So I'm more of a proponent of what is their work ethic like? Like, are they willing to do other people's jobs? So I was just in a meeting with a partner before this, and we know how to do each other's jobs. Doesn't mean I want to do it every day, but if he wants to go on a 2-week vacation with his wife, I can pick up the slack and I can keep it going, and if I want to go take a month-long trip to South America, I can bring my laptop. I can still do enough things, but I also know he's going to be there to pick up the slack. And it's not like, well, it's your job, figure it out. So I think that, plus having similar visions of what does success look like. And I'm surrounding myself with people who don't want to work 80 hours a week. They rather trade a little bit of equity or a little bit of money for the freedom. And, so making sure we're on the same page from a vision, mission standpoint, and then the work ethic. Because I know if we have that, we can figure out anything. We can put our heads together and figure out why something's not working. Because knowledge and education are everywhere. It's a matter of taking action on it.
That's interesting. I suppose from the education point of view, and do you find yourself continually learning? Is learning part of your daily core and what you do, or what way do you approach it?
Yeah, it really is. So I'm always learning. I read 30 minutes. I get up at 4:00, from 4 to 4:30 every day. It's on my schedule. That's when I read whatever book I'm reading. If I'm in the car, I'm listening to podcasts, and then just connecting with other people. So as you know, as a podcast host, I get to interview really cool people every day, and selfishly get a lot out of it, which I think what makes a good interview, because I'm genuinely curious, because I am my ideal listener. I'm a small business owner. I'm a local business owner. I'm trying to get to where I want to go. So learning from other people like that, and then, being a part of, whether it's a mastermind, a meetup, some sort of group of people that have, similar goals and aspirations. They're not content with where they're at right now. They want to do more. They want to reach their full potential. So always learning, putting it on my schedule, and taking that really seriously, because it has had such a big impact on my life.
I'm curious as well. I mean, do you, as a person, are you pain or pleasure driven? Do you know?
That's a really good question, Pete. So, I don't mind the pain, because I know the hard work is worth it. Like, going all the way back to like my first job, I was washing dishes. Like, yeah, that kind of sucked that I had to wash dishes from like 5:00 at night to midnight, right? But I knew the reward was worth it. So I am totally fine. Like, to me, is it worth it? The pain of working in corporate America wasn't worth it, because the upside was there just was no upside until like I'm 65, 70 years old. So I think it's a fine balance of, I am totally okay going through the pain. I'm okay waking up early. I'm okay putting in long hours when I have to, because I know the reward. So I'm a very, analytical person. 1 + 1 is going to equal 2. So if I can put in the work and I know there's a reward, being able to do both, I'm not going to avoid pain just because I want to avoid pain. I'm only going to avoid pain if I have, if I know that it's going to pay off. But I'm totally fine getting dirty, getting in the trenches, getting my hands dirty, putting in some hours for the reward on the other side. And that comes in all different forms, whether it's saving money, whether it's, hey, Friday night, I'm going to work for a couple hours while everyone's sleeping because I know it's going to pay off. So from a pleasure standpoint, I'm definitely more long-term, but I don't want to wait till retirement either. So if I can put in the hard work for 5 to 10 years, to then have 4 to 5 businesses that I can reap the rewards on of all the work that I put in, and then I can do what I really want to do, it's totally fine by me.
Do you have a point that you're planning to sort of pull the cord and say, right, that's in terms of work, I'm done, all my investments are in place, my money is made and working for me? Is there a point in your life, have you projected forward, you want to say that I'm semi-retired or I'm at this stage in my life?
Yeah, that's a tough question. So there is a point, there is that point, and it's very clear on what that point is. But I know once I get to that point, then it's like I just love the challenge. I love it's to me, it's just one big game that I get to play every day.
Mm.
But kind of the next step in that journey. So uh, where we live, the school district, the kids can do year-round schools, which basically means they go to school for 9 weeks and then they take 3 weeks off, and they just do that forever until they get to high school. Once they get to high school, they go to a regular schedule where they have summer vacation. But our vision as a family is our 12 months from now, basically, when she starts kindergarten in 2021, she's going to be in year-round school, which means she goes to school for 9 weeks and then she takes 3 weeks off. So during those 3 weeks, we want to start traveling. So, as you know, raising kids, the first couple of years, you can't really do a ton. I mean, you can do enough to scratch that itch, but you're not just like picking a kid up and like going to backpack around South America when she's 1.5 or 6 months old or 3 years old. So we took our first big family trip about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. We went to the UK for 2 weeks. So, spent time in London. My wife's big into Harry Potter. They did the Harry Potter thing. We went up to Scotland, played golf. So we're finally at the point where we can go on family trips and enjoy it. So from a financial standpoint, we want to be able to do that. From a financial and workload standpoint, we want to be able to do that consistently. Every 9 weeks, hey, let's take 2 weeks off and go explore somewhere new. Let's go visit family, whatever. So that's kind of the next step. But I know that once we get there, then it's, okay, now let's just take this investment and, now let's go make a bigger difference. Whether it's let's donate more money, let's spend more time volunteering, let's leave a bigger legacy for our family. Let's leave our daughter in a position where she can literally do whatever she wants while teaching her the lessons that she needs to learn to value all the work that we're putting in. So we don't want her to grow up thinking mom and dad never worked and all this money just grows on trees. We want her to know that, you do have to work for it, but there is a reward for the work that you're putting in. So finding that fine balance. So yeah, so that's really the next step. 12 months from now, we want to be at a point where we can take 2 weeks off every 2 months, basically, and go visit family, go to Europe, go to South America. My wife's from Colombia originally, so being able to go down there if we want and visit some of her family, and I can do my work from wherever I am. I'm still going to work if we're traveling, but I know I can get up at 4 a.m, get my work done for the day, go enjoy the day. If I have to work a little bit at night, that's fine. But to be able to do that, that's kind of the next step in our journey.
Well, it's amazing to have that flexibility and freedom to do that. And, it's learning about how, as you say, businesses, they have to be able to work without you.
Right.
And how you can almost do yourself out of a job, right?
Yeah. So, and that's really where I see the value in partnerships too. So, and I want my partners to be able to do the same thing. So if they want to go travel for 2 weeks or they want to go backpack around, we can kind of hold down the fort for them, because to me, that's my overall arching belief is our business should be the number one vehicle that empowers us to do whatever we want to do in this world. And that's, everybody's got a different vision of what their ideal life looks like. But if I can help them build a business to make that happen, then they can do whatever they want to do. They want to play more golf. Do they want to go on the boat every weekend? Do they want to go to the beach? What do they want to do? Everyone's view of freedom is different, but if we can build a business to make that happen, to me, that's a life well lived, because you're going to make a big impact when you do that.
Makes sense. So who now is your, what's your avatar? Who you work with and who's your clients?
Yeah. So I would say, I love working with small business owners. My offering, at least from a coaching standpoint, so I have my local businesses going on, but from a coaching consulting standpoint, I just love working with small business owners, and mainly doing that through a mastermind format, which allows us to bring other small business owners together. Because what I realized real quickly in my journey is business ownership is a lonely world. It feels like we're on an island, population of one. Nobody gets what we're going through. If I go talk to my neighbors about business, they're tuned out in like 10 seconds. They're like, whatever, my job sucks. Or, hey, did you watch the football game last night? Like, you can't have those conversations with everybody. So, my ideal customer is a small business owner who's hungry for more. They're ready to be held accountable. They're ready to transform from kind of working in the business to working on their business. They're ready to give up some control in their minds, to automate, scale their business, put a team in place, so they can do what they really want to do. So kind of, my tagline right now is build a great business, but build an, even better life, because we only got one shot at this. So a small business owner who is, there's plenty of small business owners out there who are content with where they're at. I don't want to work with people who are content with where they're at. I want them to reach their full potential. And, originally I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I realized that was cost prohibitive for my ideal customer, because they don't have $2,000 to $3,000, extra every month. If they did, they probably wouldn't be my ideal customer. So doing it in a group mastermind format makes it a lot more affordable, and they actually get way better results. And what I realized is once we were clear on our vision, once they know where they want to go, we basically need three things to be really successful. We need a mentor, we need a plan, and we need accountability. If you're missing one of those, you're not going to get to where you want to go. So a mentor is somebody who has been where you want to go, or they're at a place where you want to get to. They help you put a plan in order to get there. And then you have peers holding you accountable. So, if you look at why people have success, whether it's in weight loss, fitness, education, whatever it is, it's because they have those three things. They're going to show up every day. And if you're the only one that shows up and says, I didn't do my homework, everyone's like, come on, Pete, if you just did your homework, we could get ice cream or whatever it is. Like if you think back to grade school, like nobody wanted to be that person. We had a mentor and we had a plan in order to get there, and business is no different. And I really started to realize this: one, what worked for me being part of a mastermind, and two, kind of going through kind of like personal fitness. I would always go to the gym, but I wouldn't go consistently, and I wouldn't push myself because I was by myself. And then I joined a kickboxing gym, and I had a mentor. He was there every day. He gave me a plan, and then I would go really early. I'd go at 5 a.m. And if I didn't show up, or if someone else didn't show up for the 5 a.m. class, like, Paul, where were you? Like, you don't want that feeling. So that tough love really does work. So, that was kind of the final, I would say, aha moment, that if I put all this together from a business coaching standpoint, that I can reach my ideal customer and get them the results that I know they want and know they need in order to get to that next level. So that's really, my ideal customer: small business owner, really good at what they do, hungry for more. They're ready to be held accountable, because let's be honest, a lot of us aren't ready to be held accountable quite yet. So once you've reached that point, it's like, okay, I'm ready to be held accountable. I want to surround myself with other business owners who get it. And when we can bring together different industries, it is really powerful. So I don't limit it to, hey, you have to be in this industry. We really get a lot more insight from the marketing person, or that person that's a CPA, or the person that's a landscaper, because they're like, hey, in my industry, we do this, check it out. And we're like, oh my God, I never thought of that. So it can turn into a really powerful thing. So, that's really who I love working with. That's what fires me up every day, when I can work with small business owners who are at a place where I used to be, in order to help them get to where they want to go. That's a pretty gratifying day.
What typically is the sort of the blockers that those people are experiencing?
Yeah, so a lot of it's mindset. They don't want to give up control. They don't trust anybody. And really getting to the root of that, maybe they don't have systems and processes. But a lot of it is, they don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
They see other businesses having success. They don't really know what questions they need to ask. They know what their pain points are, but they might not know how to overcome them, or they know how to overcome them and they're too afraid to take action. So, if you look at like obesity in the US, there's like, I don't know what the numbers are, 60 to 70% of the people in the US are overweight. That is not from lack of knowledge. They know what they would need to do. They can go to Google, they can go to YouTube and figure out everything on their own. But there's something missing in order to actually get them to take action. So, that's really, that I really work with my clients on is, and then pointing out those blind spots. Hey, Pete, once you get to that point, there's going to be a roadblock ahead. So if you do what I did, and I'm not the only one giving this advice. If you're in a mastermind of 10 to 12 people, hey, this was my experience. So I would say their biggest blocks are from a mindset standpoint. And then they know what their problem is, but there's 100 different ways they could solve that problem. So they want to know what the right way to solve it is, so they're not wasting their time. Because if you're consuming a lot of content, everyone's going to tell you the way you should do it. And when you can put yourself in a group of people who have actually been through it and you can come to a conclusion, you're going to get to where you want to go so much quicker. So I would say those are a couple of pain points, roadblocks that I see, very common, with the people that I work with.
I think it's great. I suppose even with the mastermind, it's if someone, even if they can't recommend you the right way, if they can say, well, here's what I did do and don't do that, that alone is worth its weight in gold, right?
Yeah, it is, because like I said, we don't know what we don't know. So we try something, it doesn't work. We try that, it doesn't work. And then eventually we get scared of trying again because we're worried about failing again in our own mind and what are people going to think. So, when you can have that group to support you and like, hey, go do it. And, if you hit a roadblock, we got your back, instead of trying to figure it out all on your own. Like I know there's plenty of business owners that sit in their office all day that it's like, man, this is a lonely world. And it doesn't have to be. So, a lot of the people that I work with, they say, working together in a mastermind or with a group coaching program is like, it's going to a party and actually having something to talk about, because people actually get it. So, most of the times if we go to a party and we talk about what we do, everyone's like, oh, I don't really get that. So when you can surround yourself with people that get it, they know what you're going through, they've been through what you're going through, it makes life, way easier. It makes business ownership a lot more fun.
Mm. And does that give you enough energy back and enough of a challenge, or do you then have to get your own sort of mentorship and mastermind selection from you too to push you?
Yeah, both. So it definitely fires me up. Like, so my Wednesdays are my mastermind days with my clients. Like that's when I wake up every day super excited, but I love just getting on those calls. Somebody always has a breakthrough. We celebrate that breakthrough. And that fires everybody else up, that motivates them. It's kind of the rising tide raises all ships. But I also know that momentum is a powerful thing. You're either going up or you're going down. And if you stop working on yourself, it's going to be really hard to take care of other people. So it's kind of the airplane rule. You got to put your mask on first before you put mask on other people. So I always got to be taking care of myself. So I'm always, working on my personal development. I'm part of a, mastermind myself. That type of work is super important for me, just to make sure I show up ready to serve my people, whether it's my coaching clients, whether it's, partners in business, employees, whatever it is. We can't take care of other people unless we take care of ourselves first.
Mm. No, it's so true. And I think especially in this, at this time in COVID and all the rest, it's self-care it can be a tough time too, to preserve your business and preserve yourself, right? For long term,
Yeah,
it's a long term.
It really is, and we always put ourselves on the back burner. Like we always do. We'll sacrifice everything to go do something else, take care of somebody else, make this thing happen. But if you look at the top performing people in their industry, they are investing in themselves heavily so they can just focus on what they're good at. So I always equate it to LeBron James. LeBron James hires coaches for everything, trainers for everything, consultants for everything. So he just has to focus on basketball. He doesn't have to worry about what food should I eat? What time should I go to bed? What do I need to do in the gym? What do I need to train with? Where do I need, he's hired people to do all that for him so he can reach his full potential. And for whatever reason, it's really taboo, especially in business, to hire a consultant, hire a coach. It's like admitting that you screwed up and you don't know how to figure it out. But when you realize the most successful people in their industry surround themselves with people, that are helping them get to where they want to go, and then you start to see the results, then all of a sudden you're proud. It's like, yeah, I got a coach and it's awesome. I'm part of a mastermind. It's awesome because I'm doing things that I never thought possible. But for so long in our business journey, it's almost like waving a white flag and surrendering if you hire help.
It is crazy. It's because you said it yourself there, the business entrepreneurship is lonely. You suddenly go, right, I've started my own business, and it's like, well, you forget that whether you're blue collar, white collar worker, there's rules, there's structures, there's systems, there's process and all this. You go out on your own, it's your choice. So
yeah, it really is. And most of whatever world you're leaving, if you left a job to start a business, all those people are like subconsciously or maybe consciously hoping that you fail because they don't want to see you succeed, because they want to be like you. They don't want that job, but at the same time, misery loves company. So they're secretly behind their mind thinking like, man, that job might fail, which then reassures me that I'm making the right decision, staying in this job that I hate. So you've got a lot mentally going against you already. And then it's like you sit in your home office every day, especially now. It's like, man, is there anybody out there? Like, is this working? You know, did I make the right decision? So when you can surround yourself with other people going on the same journey, it's way more fun. You know, it's way more energizing. And you realize that it doesn't have to be an isolating world. The key is you got to invest in yourself to make that leap.
Hmm. How's your own inner language and your own self-critic?
It's, you know, it's just like anybody else. Emotions, you know, how can we eliminate a lot of the emotions out of it? And, you know, the emotion part is probably what got you where you are, but it also can, you know, I know, like, if someone leaves my mastermind, or someone who I think is a shoo-in, they say, no, I'm not going to do it, I beat myself up for it. It's like, God, not just because I knew it was a great fit and I knew I could help them, but it's just, you know, I know that for a fact, anybody that say they decided not to work with me from a coaching consulting standpoint, I know if I check in with them 6 or 12 months down the road, they're going to be in a worse position if they haven't taken action. So it pains me that that is what's going to happen, but it also, you know, it pains me too, because I know what difference I can make. And I feel like I let my family down, like just all these thoughts keep going around. I'm like, do I have the right offer? What could I have done better? You know, but then when you sign up a couple people for whatever you're selling, it's like, oh yeah, I'm on top of the world. So it's like, how can we balance those emotions? And it's really hard. So, you know, I beat myself up, and I still need to work on, you know, whether it's someone leaves one of my programs or someone doesn't sign up or whatever. It's, I am, you know, at the end of the day, we are our own worst critics. So if we can at least have that self-awareness and have ways to overcome that and kind of put it to a stop before we go down a deep, dark path. Because I know I'm really good at what I do, but those micro moments always make us, you know, self-doubt and second guess.
No, it's true, and you know, trying to keep on top of your own thoughts and see where you're going is it's key. You know, it's getting it fresh. On like in terms of your own uh, intuition, because just even going right back, you know, in terms of you know you intuitively sort of understanding things. You know, how do you take time to almost listen to your subconscious from a creativity and intuitive point of view? You know, is that in your creative process?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I am a very analytical person. So I'm always going to look at the black and white part of things, the numbers of things, kind of take some of the emotions out of it. But I do also, you know, trust my gut, whether it's, is this a good person to work with? Is this a good client to work with? I think it's a fine balance that, you know, we never really perfect. You know, I'm a huge fan of trusting your gut and not doing things just for the money. I've left a lot of money on the table just because I didn't enjoy what I was doing, or I knew I wouldn't enjoy it. So I have gotten better, you know, probably since I quit my job 10 years ago, of never doing anything for money, but knowing that if I love what I'm doing and I'm making an impact, solving big problems, I will get compensated accordingly. It's just going to be a little bit more down the road. So, you know, it's a fine balance of, do the numbers make sense? But then also, what does my gut say? What do I really feel? You know, and then a lot of times asking my wife, because she's a pretty good judge of that too. Like, are you really going to enjoy this? Or that person is not a good person to be working with. You know, so having those third party people that can kind of allow you to see the forest from the trees, sometimes the bigger picture, you know, pulling those thoughts out, asking the tough questions is also huge.
You know, it takes a lot of got a lot of going through. What's a guilty pleasure for you?
Uh, it's a good question. So I literally don't watch like any TV. So maybe 20 minutes a week, to be honest. I would love to. The last time I was sick, I got food poisoning. Like, even though I was miserable, it was really nice to just sit on the couch. And this was when I don't know if it was popular over there, but the 10-part Michael Jordan series, The Last Dance, about his, you know, kind of last year with the Chicago Bulls. I literally watched TV for 10 hours. And that was more TV than I probably watched the entire year. So it sucked being sick, but it was really, really nice to, like, that's the only time I can really turn my brain off, is if I'm really sick. And it was nice to just not have to worry about anything. So I would say that's one thing. And then other than that, I do like junk food. I just don't buy junk food because I know I'll eat it all, especially like sweets, like cookies, brownies, cakes. So when I moved in originally with my wife, like that was my thing, and I think it was because I was growing up. Like I would buy like packages of cookies nonstop, and that was my thing every day after dinner. Like I would eat a whole bunch of cookies. So it's still definitely a guilty pleasure. I just don't buy them because I know, especially as we get older, you can't just eat whatever you want to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, you mentioned fishing a while back. Is that something you still do?
It's not, unfortunately. So I was just talking to actually neighbors this week, and they're like, "Oh, do you fish?" I'm like, "I used to fish a lot." My days growing up, I'd fish in the morning. Me and my neighbor, we'd get up at like 5 in the morning. We'd go fish for a couple hours, and then we'd go to the golf course and play golf every day. So those are the two things I did the most. And then once I graduated college, I really haven't done it. More from the time, like I enjoy it, but I wouldn't, the time that it takes to do it, I rather spend that time doing something else. And usually it's spending time with the family. So finding that fine balance, I think once our daughter gets older, and we can do those things together, whether it's fishing, playing golf, those things will probably come back into the picture, as long as that's what she likes to do. And then carving time out for my own. So my wife and I do this thing like twice a month. We each get our own day on a weekend that we can do whatever we want for an entire day. We don't have any husband obligations or wife obligations. We don't have any parental obligations. So I'll usually take that time to do whatever I want to do. And growing up, fishing was really easy because we lived on a lake. My backyard was a lake, so I could just go fish. Now it's just a bigger process. You got to get a license to go fishing. You got to find a lake. You need a boat. And to me, it's just not worth it. So golfing's still on the table, but it's still a big time commitment. And golf, I don't know if you play golf, but it's one of those things, if you don't do it all the time, it can be really frustrating, especially because I used to be really good. So now I usually spend my spare time, working around the house, or I really do enjoy it. So we just launched another business, converting vans into camper vans. So a lot of my free time and I like doing that stuff, just building stuff and playing with, building wood and cutting wood and hammering and all those fun things that I enjoy doing, and that I probably got from my dad because he was always, in the carpentry world. So I spend a lot of my free time doing things like that, if we're not traveling. So pre-COVID, we would travel quite a bit. We'd visit family, we'd visit friends, we'd take road trips. But in the year 2020, we really haven't done a lot of that.
I love the way with business, you obviously you understand what it needs to set it up. You understand the logistics. You understand to bring in JV partners, right? So but yet you don't let yourself get sucked into it too much, it seems.
Yeah. So, and obviously that's learning a muscle too, because, when it was just me and my wife, if she was working 12-hour days at the hospital, I could work 12 hours a day and I loved it. But now really getting dialed in my calendar and I'm done working every day at 3:00 in the afternoon. I won't work past 3, because that's usually when I go pick up our daughter from school, and then we hang out, make dinner, play in the backyard, whatever. And I'm in bed, literally, I'm sleeping by like 8:30. She goes to bed at 7:30. I'll wind down, read a little bit, and then I'm out. So, I get my 8 hours of sleep, and, really try and prioritize the family time. I don't work on weekends, whereas before I always worked on weekends. So, leveraging kind of what I said originally, that's kind of my overarching vision, mission, is to build a business so that business can be the number one vehicle to do what we really want to do in this world. So, I get up at 4, I work on myself, work on some business stuff until 6. And then after that, I'll work from like 9 to 3. So I still get my 8 to 10 hours of work in, but I'm not, burning the midnight oil. And there will be, I'm not saying I don't, but, I know I'm a pretty good judge of, okay, there might be a Saturday night where they go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, and I'll work when they go to bed, because there's some things I just want to get done, and it's quiet time and I can do it. And then I can, go to bed at midnight or whatever. And I can, it's on a weekend though. I'm not staying up till midnight on a work day to get up at 4 a.m. That's not my thing. I know it's not sustainable, and it's just not good for me or my family.
Absolutely. It's trying to get that. There's almost there's a lot of like the 4 hour work week and the Tim Ferriss stuff, seems to come around, and I think it's a great principle to have, that you sort of chunk it and you're quite allotted in what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 4 hour work week is great from a principal standpoint, but if you want to build something to enable you to work just 4 hours a week, it still takes work to build that thing at first.
Sure.
But yeah, if you can value your time, delegate, outsource systems, processes, technology, like there's so much technology out there now that's you can just take off the shelf and save gobs of time, just always being resourceful, always asking questions, and asking, is this the best use of my time? So figuring out what your priorities are. I would love to play more golf, I'd love to go fishing, I'd love to play more basketball, but there's only so much time in the week, and if there's 168 hours in a week, this is what I tell everybody. They say I don't have enough time. I said, we all got the same amount of time, it's a matter of prioritizing it. So I'm sleeping for 56, so that already brings it down to 112. And if I'm going to work 50 to 60 hours a week, that leaves me another 50 to 60 hours to spend either doing my own thing or spending time with family. And there's really just not a lot of time to play golf. I would love to play golf every day. I'd probably be divorced. I'd never see my daughter, and it wouldn't be good. So, at some point I'll get back into it. But right now, it's not really a priority of mine to do certain things. I rather, spend time with her while she's here before she doesn't want to hang out with mom and dad and she wants to go do her own thing. So finding that balance, if you want to call it a balance, I don't love that term, because there are times where you got to push and pull. I got to work harder for the next couple weeks so then I can go take a 3-week vacation, and then that's, there is no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I don't want that. I want to be able to, back to that risk reward, the pain and the pleasure. I want to put in the work. I want to go through the pain because I know it's worth it on the other side type of work.
So it is that sort of adage of work hard now so you don't have to work hard later, right?
Yeah. And definitely work smarter too, right? Like there's plenty of things that I could be doing, but should I be doing them or could somebody else be doing them? So always being aware and having that systematization, automation mindset, that is this the best use of my time? What do I actually have to do? What do I need to do? What do I want to do? And then what could other people do for me that they love doing? Things that you hate, somebody loves doing them. So take advantage of that. So that way you're fired up, excited to work on what you are working on every day.
I'm sort of sensing it's like, there's a perception of, preserving your own finances and not, being thrifty in your spending on that side, but yet you come across as being very open to investing in your business. So, hiring somebody to do the job, or to outsource it to somebody else or whatever it is. So I'm just wondering, do those two worlds of yours collide, or do you very much see it as a mechanism? I hire them at $10 an hour and they make me 20.
Yeah, so they do kind of collide. And I would say as time has gone on, I'm more for just, can I buy more time back? Like that. Okay. Once we had our daughter, we hired a cleaning company to come clean our house, because I don't want to spend 8 hours a day or 8 hours a week. I mean, on a Saturday cleaning the house. I just don't. My time is way more valuable than what they charge to clean the house. So they charge us $140 to clean our house. If that would take me, say it takes me 10 hours, me and my wife, 10 hours total, that's $14 an hour. My time is worth more than $14 an hour, because then I can take those 10 hours. And even if I took those 10 hours and worked on my business, I know I can create more capital, more revenue than $14 an hour. Or I can pay these people basically $14 an hour. So I do have a Saturday to spend with my daughter or whatever it might be. So I have gotten, if you'd have, and my wife would attest this, 10 years ago, I wouldn't pay anybody to do anything that I could do. Like, why would I pay somebody when I can do that? But now it's, if I can get time back and I know the value that my time is, it's the opportunity cost. Yeah, I can totally clean my house. I'm totally capable of it. But at what expense, and I don't want to be, whatever that saying is, stepping over a dollar, whatever it is, stepping over a dollar, save a nickel, whatever that analogy is, I don't want to be that person anymore. So if I can save time and I know long-term it's going to pay off, I'm all for it. So if I can hire somebody for $20 an hour so I can go do a $30 an hour task, that's arbitrage. That's risk-free profit that I'd be stupid not to take advantage of. So just because I can do things doesn't mean I should be doing them.
Do you have a target there then in terms of multiple sources of income, and do you have different buckets that you put in?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of diversifying as much as possible where your income's coming from, just worst case scenario. And it probably comes back to what I saw happen from 2007 to 2010. People had one source of income and that source of income got cut off overnight. They didn't know what to do. So yeah, part of I would say my strategy is I rather not own 100% of a business in the sense that it allows me to have more sources of income because my time isn't tied up into one thing. Now I have to be more diligent with my time and more focused because, right now, basically, along with my coaching business, I have 4 total businesses, 40% of one, 100% of my coaching business, 30% of that one, 45% of this one. But that to me is more peace of mind. Plus I have sold several businesses, which is also another, a couple other streams of revenue. My wife works, and now we want to start getting into real estate so that we are more diversified for the peace of mind that if something did happen, we don't have all our eggs in one basket. Now, the flip side of that, if one of my businesses takes off and I see, hey, if I put more time into this, I'm going to get a better return than if I put that time over here, then I'm okay doing that as well. But that's kind of more of a, letting the numbers dictate that, like, whoa, this thing's taking off. And maybe I do need to undiversify my time a little bit because I know if I put 10 more hours a week into this vehicle, it's going to get me way closer to that goal than the other one.
No, it's true. And I'm curious as well. I mean, that sort of being in the finance world in that 2007, 2008, 9 time, what was your takeaways there, sort of working with people at that time, what was your perception of the failure, or what was the risks that were happening at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in general, everybody was over leveraged, overextended, and they didn't think, like when things are going well, we never think they're going to end, and that was just another, obviously on a much bigger scale, that's what happened. So you see all these people buying new Range Rovers and getting a new condo, and real estate's going through the roof, and we got to buy now because the prices are going to be higher tomorrow. And having more of a long-term look at it, to me, that's really what I saw, what I learned. And, just having patience that, hey, this will pass, but it'd be nice not to have to stress about it if the market's going down, if I lost my job. I always look at what's the worst case scenario and can I plan for that? And usually you can, and then the worst case scenario really isn't that bad. So I would say that was, some of the biggest lessons that I learned is I didn't want that to happen to my family in the future. I didn't have a family at the time, but if I had a family, I don't want to be the one coming home like, sorry, I lost my job and now we're going to be on the streets, more or less. Like I didn't want that stress because I knew that stress was preventable if we actually had a plan in place.
I suppose, the financial education is going to help get around that as well, and you can, the good thing now is saying, if a pandemic should ever happen. Funny, we just kind of had that,
Yeah, now we know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. But it is having that sort of capacity, I suppose, not to be 3 paychecks away from broke, or whatever the saying is,
Right. Yeah. And that's, a position that's totally preventable, totally avoidable, if you plan for it, but you never the markets were going great until mid-March, and all of a sudden the pandemic hit and it went to zero pretty quickly. So, you can't really, you can't plan for that 100%, but you can be pretty well off if you just have that cushion at all times.
I suppose, yeah, at least preserved away from the worst. Tell me this, I'm curious, when you're traveling, favorite place?
Favorite place. So out of all the places I went to, actually another year I went to Central America for like 3 weeks. So where I was working at, we had 3 weeks vacation. I saved it all up and went backpacking around Central America for 3 weeks. I would say favorite country would be Nicaragua. I don't know what it was. It was just really cool. The people were awesome. The things that we were doing, that was probably my favorite country, just as a whole experience. Favorite, I would say the favorite experience on a micro level is we did do the Inca Trail in Machu Picchu, which was really cool. Just being that far into like nature and the mountains and the scenery, and like just thinking of the history that had gone on there and what people were doing back then was really cool. And then me being a big golfer, we did go to Scotland. I've been there actually twice now. So I took my dad there for his 60th birthday. So we played the old course. We played Carnoustie, hit a lot of little hidden gems as well. So I would say, out of all the places, those three were really cool. And then my wife and I, we actually went through Colombia for 2 weeks. That's where she was from. So that was an experience in itself, just because the perception of what Colombia is to what it actually is like night and day. Out of all the places I've been to, my family was only worried that when I went to Colombia, even though all the other countries I went to in South America were statistically proven to be way more dangerous than Colombia. Colombia here in the US gets crushed in the media because Pablo Escobar, cocaine, all the trafficking and all that. But really awesome country, awesome people. Just the diversity of the ecosystems in the cities and everything, from the beaches to the mountains to the jungle to everything in between, was really cool. So, if I had to pick one place to go back again out of all of it, I would say Nicaragua. Just, I couldn't put my finger on it, but just the combination of the scenery, the people, the cities, the vibe, everything. And it's kind of a hidden gem. Nobody would say, I can't wait to go to Nicaragua. Like, it's just one of those things.
Oh, wow, that was beautiful. So tell me, what's your overall mantra then? What do you work to?
Yeah, so my mantra, I would say the overall mantra is to have no regrets when it's all said and done, and have a load of people at your funeral. Not out of a selfish way, but just to know that you made the most out of your life and you impacted a lot. Trying to figure out what the meaning of life is. We don't really know what it is, but when it's all said and done, I don't have any regrets. And I want to know that I made an impact to a lot of people, whether helping them with their business, just being a good friend, good relative, whatever it is. I would say that's my overall mantra is I don't want to have regrets. So, if you're on the fence, just saying yes and jump in. Now, being the finance person, kind of the risk averse person in that point of making sure it makes sense financially. Like, I quit my job and didn't have a plan, but I also had financial means behind me, but I also had the patience to save up money for like a year and a half or 2 years. So balancing all of that, and making the most of every day. And when there's things that I hate doing, just stop doing them. And if it's something that has to be done, find somebody else that loves doing it. So, a lot of people call me crazy, but I wake up at 4 a.m. every day, excited to wake up at 4 a.m. every day. Because I'm ready to go. Like, I'm excited of the opportunity ahead of me. And at the end of the day, if tomorrow's my last day here, or like I said, 100 years from now, I don't want to say, man, I wonder what would have happened if I did X, Y, and Z. I want to be able to do it all. I want to leave a legacy, for my daughter, and if she has kids, grandkids, and then all the people that I impacted. I want them to take something away, the time that we had together, whether it was one cup of coffee or 20 years together, being able to leave an impact on people.
And tell me, how are you at accepting smart talk? You could certainly give it as a kid there. But...
I do accept it very well because I know I can beat him at it. So I only dish it out if I'm willing to take it. And I've always been really good at, kind of taking it and then putting them back in their place. Always been quick on my feet, thinking wise, witty wise. So I don't mind it because I also like what it really means to the relationship. If you get to that point in a relationship when you can do it, and it means that, if you're not quote unquote fighting, but it's like, hey, I know that person really well. I know I can give them this jab, and they know they can give me that jab, and I'm not going to take my ball and go home. That really, that tells me that I'm at a point where I can make this happen. And a lot of times it's with employees or people that I'm partnering with. We had a partner meeting a couple of weeks ago with a business that we had just started. And I was the only one that showed up, and we had all agreed on this time. So now I can use that as ammo every time. So I'm like, hey, don't worry. Like part of my job role is sending out a Google Calendar invite every time, because otherwise you jokers wouldn't show up. And I know I'm at a point where I can tell them that, and they're not thinking like, man, Paul's like a really jerk, you know? So getting to that point also means, you know, you've gotten to a point in a relationship with somebody that, you know, it is probably someone genuine that you can spend time with.
Yeah. That or else a 4-year-old that can take you down.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes. That's probably, you know, the 4-year-olds, as you know, they listen to everything. They don't forget anything. And they'll call you out and you're like, Dad, you told us we could do that. Why are you doing it? And you're like, yes, you are right.
And they've always got the tantrum card. If all else fails, they can just shut it down.
Exactly. Yeah. They can kick and scream and cry, and we can't do that. So, you know, so yeah, it is, it's interesting dynamic. Somebody told me that business ownership and parenting are the two biggest personal development journeys you ever go on. And I've chosen both of them. And, you know, you can read as many books as you want and listen to podcasts, but you really don't learn it until you're actually doing it. You know, you can study, but you're going to get kicked in the face, whether you like it or not.
I love it. So let's give us a couple of book recommendations. You talked there about the Go-Giver and Built to Sell were two big ones there for you. Is there anything else stands out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch over here. For people that are business, The Road Less Stupid is a really good book. You know, that's really about, each chapter is literally like 2 pages. It's like, it encourages you to have thinking time. So read this chapter and then actually go think about it, work on yourself, work on your business. That's a really good one. Anything by Mike Michalowicz from a business standpoint, if you are a business owner, awesome books. Profit First, Clockwork, Fix This Next, Pumpkin Plan. He's got a lot of great books. And then more from a personal development side, I would say 12-Week Year. We talked about 12-Week Year is great. The One Thing, another good book to kind of keep you focused away from bright, shiny objects as well. So I would say those books are really good. And then the other book I would recommend, just from a kind of building wealth, it's like The Secret of the Millionaire Mind by, I think it's T. Harv Eker. Mm-hmm. Really good book about just what do successful people do? You know, who do they hang out with? What do they do? What do they think? You know, and about kind of building wealth and not just becoming rich, more or less.
No, I love it. Tell us, Paul, so what is your fire in the belly then?
Yeah, so I would say the overall arching fire in the belly is, you know, just leveraging our business to do what we really want to do in this world. You only got one life. So whether it's me doing it personally or helping other people reach their full potential, be held accountable, and surround yourself with really awesome people to go on this journey with. So, you know, I'm fired up every day I'm, you know, lucky enough, grateful enough, to do what I do every day, you know, whether it's running businesses, serving people, creating value, coaching people through the process of business ownership. You know, that's really what fires me up every day. And that's what, like, that's probably why some of my hobbies have been pushed to the wayside is, yeah, I'd love to go play golf and you know, but it takes 6 hours when really those 6 hours I could do something that I really enjoy doing, like going to work on a van or starting a business or diving deep into financials. Like I really do enjoy that stuff. So I would say that's really the fire in my belly is taking our skills, what we're really good at, what do we love doing, and being able to do that every single day to live a life that we love. So like my mantra, my tagline is, you know, build a great business, but build an even better life. And when I can do that every day and help other people do that, that's what really fires me up.
I love that. That's really good. So tell me, where can people reach out to you? Where can they get a hold of you and follow you and like you and contact you?
Yeah, so I would say 2 places since they're listening to this podcast. I have a podcast of my own. It's called Business Owners Freedom Formula Show. So it's all about, you know, finding your ultimate freedom and building a business to make that happen. Interviewing really smart people every week. So that'd be one place. And then the other place, if you're interested in learning more, go to paulmaskill.com/mastermind. You can learn more about my mastermind. There's videos, make sure it's a good fit for you. You can fill out an application, which will then allow us to set up a time to chat. No obligations, just dive deep, kind of strategy, what's working, what's not working in your business. And then if it's a good fit to work together, we could go from there. So Business Owners Freedom Formula Show is the podcast. paulmaskill.com/mastermind is the mastermind. You know, so if anybody's interested in learning more, talking more, those 2 places would be the spot.
Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I wish you all the best for the future and all bright things coming up.
Thank you, Mighty Pete. Really enjoyed it. The almost 2 hours flew by for sure.
It's amazing. I say to people, it's like, yeah, and I'll talk for 2 hours. Like, yeah, you probably will. You know, it's good.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Really enjoyed it, Pete.
Thank you.